Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, namaste and welcome to the Author Experience Conversations, Jagdish Kini, and congratulations for your release, The Hostage book.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here, Jerry.
Yeah, lovely to be with you. I mean, I've worked with you in the past. I know your leadership style. I've had the privilege of working with you for a short duration, but I remember you had given me the challenge of cracking the Bandra Medical Store, right? And you had said if you can put Ultra Zoo in Bandra Medical Store, then you will get a big award from me. And I remember on the way to the workshop, you had given me a Draka Noah pen,
Oh,
and
wow.
I had it with me for almost 10 years, and then someone flicked it, right? This was in that bus journey to the workshop that we had way back the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yes, and I remember doing up the first window. I read something about the first window with you. I think that was at Prince Medical Store, if I'm not
that's right.
mistaken.
That's right.
Right. Guy Meyer was there from L'Oreal,
Yes, yes.
Paris. Yes, yes. Fond memories. Yes. So welcome once again, and a warm welcome to everybody who joined us on Facebook Live to gain some insights from Jagdish Kini, who's been a CEO for many companies, and we'll go through that journey in a little while from now. So. The book Release the Hostage is available on Amazon. It's available at leading bookstores. So please do pick it up. It'll give you a lot of insights about what you need to do for moving from your journey from an executive to a CEO. I always tell people, that even if you're leading a team, you are the CEO of that team, right?
True.
Because
Very
that's
true.
an organization within the organization. So to begin with, Jagdish, just to kind of set the tone, and this is where I kind of spring a surprise on all my guests. And before going into the flow of questions, suggested questions that we had shared with you, if I had to ask you to get rid of all your titles, all your accolades, all the honors that you won over the years, the designations you held over the years, the positions that you held as a CEO, MD, etc., and say, Jagdish Kini, what defines you? What best describes you as the individual, as a human being, Jagdish Kini, the individual? What would those seven descriptors be, like we do in Johari window, right? What would those descriptors be that define you as an individual in the best possible way? And this descriptors could be a word or a set of words. They could be nouns, pronouns, adjectives, adverbs, roles, responsibilities, values, principles, whatever, right? So we'll start with that. Seven descriptors. Tell me.
Well, Jerry, you really put me on the mat. Okay. Descriptors. Well, I would say, you know, probably one would be a learner and a keen observer.
Okay.
I learn through observations. I learn through uh, difficult situations. I learn through introspection.
Right.
Uh, Another descriptor could be uh, a never give up. I believe in going through it, going through the motions. I feel we need to sort of step into that gray zone, and I must give this entire credit to Henri Morvillier at L'Oreal. And he in fact told me, Jagdish, you Jagdish is as he used to call me.
Right.
Yeah, Jagdish, you've come from Procter and Gamble. Everything is not black and white. There is fun in the gray zone. Let's have fun in the gray zone. And that's when I realized that being in the gray zone made me step out of my comfort zones.
Right.
And being in the gray zone was stepping into the unknown, being vulnerable, and being ready to learn and grow. And
Right.
when we are in that gray zone, somehow we just don't realize where the learning zone ends and the growth zone starts. It's so
Right.
symbiotic,
Right.
that you just flow into the growth zones, and
Right.
and really that's what happened to me. Uh, you know, well, another descriptor for me is a team player, I would say.
Hmm.
I've always thought about the team. The organization came first. The second was the team, and the third came myself and my family along with that. But the organization always came ahead of everything else for me. So these are some of the descriptors. We'll soon find out some more as we go along this journey.
Right. So you've given me three so far.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll make you think a little more since you like to introspect and reflect.
In fact, I think introspection and deep listening
Right.
are tools for everyday improvement.
Absolutely.
And
And that's the biggest weapon for a coach.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, when we were young managers, we used to, listen to lectures on Kaizen and stuff like that.
Right.
And today, I can say that uh, deep listening and introspection are great tools for everyday small improvements. And I think that's really important for every human being, I would say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most essential skills of the futures, which you started with. You said you're a learner and a keen observer.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
learn from every situation, from every moment. And the most essential skill of the future has been recognized as a skill called learning to learn.
Yes, yes.
Because what's been recognized now, and by default, I started this concept around 15 years ago when I got into consulting and coaching. And I said jerrylearns2learn.com. That was the name of my website. It was a tribute to Michael Learns to Rock, right? And 5 years back, when they said that this is the most essential skill of the future, I was like chuffed about it. Yeah. And learning to learn, basically, because most of us, we go to school and college and we study, we wrote memorize. We
Yeah,
don't really internalize the learning, right? And one of the reasons I got into coaching is because I like working with kids. To quote an old thought by Frederick Douglass, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. And I'm very worried that a lot of children are being broken down by their parents, who are very loving parents but not great parents, like I call them, right? Because you put the pressure of percentage and performance onto them without really letting them harness and unleash their true potential.
yeah,
And that's how the Jerry learns to learn came in. And I working with a lot of kids who download useless apps like Byju's, etc. You realize that they only increase their percentage. They don't understand the principles of engineering or mathematics, right? So learning and keen observation is the first point you spoke about. Perseverance, where you
yeah,
said you never give up.
yeah.
And that's a very important trait for us. Resilience, it's based on the science of
Absolutely.
resilience. We have an entire act called the Mojosh Magnificent Seven, which is like, seven of us go into offsites, annual events, award functions, and inspire people that we are very broken, but we refuse to break down because we persevere to break through. And then you said teamwork. Interdependence is very important
Yeah.
for you. How do you understand interdependence? How do you kind of keep that team spirit alive? How do you build great teams? And then you spoke about introspection and deep listening,
Yeah.
what we call as, we have a certification course called ACE listeners, active, comprehensive, and empathic listening. That's the acronym for ACE. So that's 4 points that you've given me. And since I've given you some thoughts to mull upon, you have three more to go.
Oh.
I'm really putting you on the mat here.
uh, well, this is again, uh, it's very similar to, you know, I talked about perseverance.
Right.
It's really a story going back to school days when I was in taking part in the Bombay School Athletics, and I was in this. It was in the heats, I think, or was it
Okay.
in the finals? I'm not sure. But I was one amongst the 8 or 10 that were running the race, and I tripped and I fell. Almost 3 quarters of the uh, race I was over, and I was number 3 when I looked over my shoulder. Then I fell because I tripped. By the time I could regain posture, I mean, the race was almost over. I
Right.
gave up and I stepped aside from the track. And my sir, PT sir, Andrade, he, he came and held me, my little head he held in his big hand, in his big palm like that, and he looked straight into my eye and said, Jagdish, I didn't ask you to win the race, I asked you to compete in the race.
Right. Right.
And remember, what you have started, you should complete.
Very, very true. You take it to your logical conclusion.
He said, you must complete. So
Right.
the next time you're running, make sure whatever you do in life, just complete it.
Right.
Don't leave anything midway. And that's stuck for life. So,
Absolutely.
and
I
that's
come.
really, I would say that I would learn from a lot of these stories which I had during my childhood, and even my stories. At L'Oreal, we had enough stories, and at Airtel, I have even more stories to sort of talk about and write about. And I think I learn from stories, I observe from stories, I act in stories,
Right.
I participate in stories, and I create stories.
So you're also a storyteller. I'll give that as the sixth for you.
I'm not sure whether I can call myself a storyteller, but yes, I do narrate. Instead of giving an answer, I run a program called Coffee with Kinney.
Right.
Mainly the youngsters who have come from engineering colleges across Karnataka. When
Right.
they come to Bangalore, they're really in awe of the city, and the whole city really gets them. And they keep running back to the villages every weekend, and as a result they are never able to get into the city life, and they're never able to enjoy the city life. So I started this thing with Coffee with Kinney, and I kept it over weekends so that they could stay back and we could talk. And storytelling came as a part of that journey,
Right.
simply because instead of giving them an answer which is telling them how to behave or what to do, or through
Right.
business language, I started narrating my stories in similar situations. And that really reached home, and it hit the chord there. And I
Right.
thought maybe storytelling is a nice way of doing it. But I don't think I can call myself a storyteller.
Well, you're telling us a lot of stories already. So that's six. You're a learner and keen observer. You're persevering, never give up. You're a team player. You're an introspector and a deep listener. You complete things, never leave anything unfinished. Take it to its logical conclusion. Very important for life lesson for everyone, right? And that's what you see in marathons. Even if people don't win, they want to complete the race because
Yeah.
it gives you your own high, right? Reminds me of what John Wooden used to say. John Wooden was one of the best NBA coaches that NBA will ever see. I don't think they'll see a coach like him. And most players that he coached at the NBA say that he never taught us basketball. He only taught us values. He would say, don't worry about winning or losing. At the end of the game, ask yourself, did you give it your best? Did you put in
Yes.
more than 100% effort? Because winning is surely not in your hands.
Yes.
Losing is if you don't give it your best effort, right?
Yes.
So success is not in your control. So what would the seventh one be?
Seventh, perhaps, you made me think, but it should have come higher up in the list. I believe in relationships.
Relationships.
You know,
Yes, and I know that about you. You're a family man, right? You
family man, and even my relationships in business.
business, yeah. So
You
you
know,
believe in trust, relationships of
yes,
trust, because that's exactly how businesses and any kind of business or any kind of relationship thrives because of trust,
true.
right? So brilliant, great. Thank you, Jagdish, and that's very helpful. Seven great lessons for all the people who are listening in, especially for the youth who will be seeing this. When we take this program to schools, because we are starting a creative writing program in schools and colleges.
Okay.
Like I was telling you earlier, I like working with children. So now we are going to put you on a spot really, because now you actually have to tell a story, which is the story and which is the story and journey of your life, right from childhood. You remembered a few incidents from the school race. Which school were you in, by the way?
Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart. Okay, fine. Okay, so over to you. Is you're going to have exclusive screen time. The virtual stage is all yours. 9 minutes or 10. That's the format we follow. 9 minute stories. But take your time. I won't stop you. So over to you. The journey of your life, the story of your life, right from childhood to now and going forward.
Oh, okay. uh, well, as a little kid, I don't think I was. Yeah, I did come in the top five of the class, but I don't think I was very studious or. I believed in a lot more of sport. I was more into sport than into studying. Uh, so I would say that I was an above average student uh, in school. Uh, it was in 1965. Uh, I think we were at war with Pakistan, and I was in Bombay. We were living in Bombay at that time, and I was a 10-year-old kid. And in the wartime, we were all trained when the siren goes, what we were supposed to do. There was a drill, there was practice sessions, mock drills, mock sirens, all that. In Bombay, we were going through all those drills. And one evening, the siren went, and some people said it's a mock. Some people said no, there's not a mock. And there was scrambling around and people moving out of their houses. And at that stage, it must have been about 4:30 in the evening. We saw three planes, two planes actually uh, chasing a third plane. It appeared like that, like a dogfight, as we read in comics. Uh, and some elders who were around us, elderly people who said, oh, that's our two gnats chasing away the Paki plane, and I kept looking at that, and as a 10-year-old, something in me told me, Jagdish, how would you like to be in that plane, chasing that Paki plane? And that's the time I think I made up my mind that I wanted to be an Air Force pilot. And nurtured that dream for some years, 7, 8 years, 10 years, and didn't make it to the NDA. Uh, First and only dream shattered. Uh, it was like the world was over. But Andrade came to mind. Uh, Finish what you have started.
Right.
And here was life which I had not started, but somebody else gave me life, but I had to complete it. So the race was not over. Get up and finish the race was Andrade telling me that lesson for life. And I decided, okay, what else can I do? And I used to enjoy cricket, so I thought I was pretty good at cricket, and I thought, let me chase that dream, uh, you know. And before that, my father told me, why don't you look at becoming a doctor? My sister was at that stage already doing her medicine MBBS at the KEM uh, Hospital, College, King George Edward Medical College, and it was like, she became the role model, and I said, yeah, why not. And when I was in final year in school, we had done some kind of a aptitude test, and I was told that I could become a great surgeon, or I could become a great carpenter. And those days, of course, carpenters were not looked upon at. Today we have a lot of carpenters who are doing some great work, but those days becoming a carpenter was something which was not being thought about. And so I thought I'll become a doctor. And again, life was shattered when I didn't make it to the medical colleges. Uh, and then I thought cricket and didn't make it to the cricket level. So also, that's when I realized that dreaming is not good enough. You need to do a lot more than just dream. And passion is not just about saying this is my passion. It calls for a lot of perseverance. It calls for a lot of practice. It calls for a lot of focus. It calls for a lot of dedication. You got to give yourself completely to that passion of yours. And here I was dreaming in bits and pieces, and yet blaming the world, saying that, I didn't make it because I didn't get this good enough. I didn't make it to cricket because my kit was not good enough. I was blaming everybody else, and not blaming myself at all. When I realized much later in life, uh, you know, and I think my dad did a great job for me. After I finished my graduation, he asked me what next, and made me think. And I said, yeah, maybe I'll start a career and look for a job. And he would give me 10 rupees every day in the morning. 5 rupees would go in the bus fare, 83 limited or 84 limited, to go to business center and come back, Nariman Point, and come back to Khar. And 4 rupees 50 paise would go in Udupi Thali. I was left with 50 paise, and he said, well, if that does not take care of your cigarettes, earn your money, son, to smoke.
Right.
So, and I used to go every day in the morning to Nariman Point, meet different companies, talk to them. Some places give my resume, some places just walk away. I must have met about 30, 40 companies and given my resume. I didn't get a job immediately. Of course, finally, there was this company called Siemens who was told me that we are having an entrance exam for graduates, and maybe you can give you an exam, and then we'll see whether you pass or not. And I got my first job as a trainee with the Siemens company in the factory at Thane, Kalwa. And I started working there in the motors factory and in the switchboard factory. And I met Ravi and Mukund, two friends of mine, and Srinivas, who then again kindled this thing in me that we need to do a post graduation. So I tried getting into the IIMs. I didn't make it again. Finally got into SIBM. And in SIBM, lots of stuff happened. Those 2 years were defining years for me. And then I graduated from there and I got my first job post my MBA with Richardson Hindustan Limited, which became Procter and Gamble a year and a half later or 2 years later because P&G bought them out. So that's how I worked with P&G for almost 9 years. When I was in SIBM, I began to understand a lot more about the way people think, the way humans think. A little bit of neurosciences, but not really neurosciences, but began to understand that if I have to move ahead in life and achieve a goal, what I want to be called as a goal, then I need to be able to disrupt myself. And one of the goals that I was really looking at was to be the managing director of a company by the age of 40. And I said, if I want to be a good, impactful, effective managing director, I need to understand finance. And I had never studied finance. So I decided that I'll major in finance. And it was a difficult choice, but I said, yes, I will major in finance only because uh, for me to understand a subject at a deeper level, I need to give exams. That's one of my strengths. If I don't have to give an exam, then I don't understand that subject as good enough. So I gave exams in finance, majored in finance, got into RHL, P&G, worked in finance for almost 5 years, then worked in marketing and sales for 4.5 years. I had begun to understand that disruption is the way forward. It became a part of my strategy. So when Gurcharan Das actually said we want to create a future leadership bench and we'll do this through job rotation, I was probably one of the first few to raise my hand. And I moved from finance to marketing and sales. And I thought that was really, really impactful and it defined my career in many different ways. After having worked with P&G for almost 9.5 years, 9 years, uh, I got this offer from L'Oreal. Uh, it was when this offer came, it was more like an adventure for me because in many different ways it was setting up L'Oreal in India. I didn't know L'Oreal at all. L'Oreal was not present in India. And the gentleman whom I met was like saying that, we are world's number one and therefore we will be India's number one in cosmetics as well. And these were all statements I was listening to. It was more like an adventure for me, saying that yes, I'm going to be the employee number one for L'Oreal to set up L'Oreal in India. But however, it doesn't seem that easy. It's like the fear of failure was looming large for me, and that's when I went to one of my friend's father. My friend Girish Rangan, his father A.S.K. Rangan, uncle was the chief HR manager or chief HR leader, CHRO of Colgate Palmolive at that time. So I went to him and I told him, Uncle, this is the situation and this is what they're telling me, set up L'Oreal in India. So he said, what's the issue? I said, I don't know whether I should take up this offer. So he said, what is the issue? So I said, Uncle, I'm scared. I said, scared of what? So I said, scared that I might fail. I don't know how to set up a company. I don't know what it means to set up a company. I've just worked 9 years now, uh, 2-3 years in Siemens and 9 years in Procter and Gamble. I'm not sure whether I can do this. So he said, Jagdish, what do you think about your leadership? So I said, Uncle, I think my leadership is very ordinary, uh, in the sense that what I do, I believe is very simple, is common sense, and I do what my heart tells me to do as a leader. So he said, that's great leadership. I said, I'm not sure. So he said, maybe you need to convince yourself that you're a good leader. I said, how do I do that? He said, one of the ways is to take up the offer at L'Oreal. If you mess it up, you know you're not a good leader. If you don't mess it up, maybe you're a good leader. And I said, let me try. I took that first step into that unknown gray zone. And then, after you take the first step, I realized that I was in the flow. And I began to conquer my fears one after the other. And I had some great mentors after that as well, Henri Mobilier, Jean-Jacques Masson de Blaise, and some others. These were guys who really, really helped me believe in myself, believe that I could create the future for L'Oreal, and I could create a future for myself. And they offered me to study at INSEAD, so I got the opportunity to study at INSEAD, Fontainebleau. I did an advanced management program there for 18 months. And they told me that as soon as I finish the program, within 3 months, if I don't get posted as a country manager anywhere in the world, then I'm free to leave. Because Jeff had already come into India as the first managing director for L'Oreal India. And I took up this course. Unfortunately, they couldn't place me in 3 months. Gillette made me an offer to be the managing director for Gillette in India. Prior to that, just be in Dubai for some short time and then come to India again. And all this happened, and I became the managing director for Gillette. When I was the managing director for Gillette, the mid-40 blues hit me. Uh, I began to ask myself as to what is the impact I'm having as a business leader. And the more I introspected, the more I lost sleep at times, because I realized that as a leader, I was having a great impact on my company, on my team, and my family. However, the void was that I was not able to have an impact on a wider part of society. And questions like what came to mind was that if people don't shave, does it really matter? Or if people shave, will it change their lives? And these sort of things started coming into my mind, and I was grappling with what should I do. I needed the job, I needed the money. My children were still in school and college, school in fact at that time. Uh, Financially, we were not independent. So, I mean, the job was required, and I kept asking myself as to what do I do. And they say that when you energize the goal, the RAS, the reticular activation system in your mind or the brain, is so powerful that it brings the universe together to offer you those opportunities. It's not that those opportunities were not there earlier, but suddenly now, because you energized that goal, you begin to spot these opportunities. And the opportunity came with the meeting Sunil Mittal. I was with Sunil Mittal when, okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was with Sunil Mittal when he was explaining his vision of building Airtel as a large organization. And I on the other side of the same coin, I saw my own purpose to join Airtel. And I said, here's an opportunity to change the way an average Indian lives. Changing the way an average Indian lives is a great thought to cherish and to sort of mull over. But I was bloody scared inside me, saying that is it a too big a goal? Is it too big for me to take up? Is it too big for me to even think about? And the fears were all there, and somehow there was one part of me telling me that go ahead, what will happen? Worst case scenario is you'll fail. Take up another job. But at least when you go to the grave, you will not have this regret that you haven't tried. And that's really what pushed me again, dissuade me, helped me disrupt myself to move and take up this job from a pretty large canvas of Gillette to a small canvas of Airtel at that time, because Airtel was only in Delhi at that point of time and Haryana, and Airtel was really negotiating uh, their acquisition of JTM in the south. And after that, we did a few more acquisitions, and then we spread with the fourth license and stuff like that, and we became an all India player, and then became an international player. So that's where I took up the job with Airtel, and I had two goals when I set out from the B school, which was one was to be the managing director at age 40, the other was to quit industry at 50. So 45 days before I turned 50, uh, 2005, I quit industry. Uh, I then acted in two plays, tried to do a few other things, uh, then realized that I was not cut out for all that, but I was cut out for industry. Started a consulting firm. Within 5 years, we were back to working 12, 13 hours a day. We had a boutique consulting firm, a top line of about 4 to 5 crores. We were again working like the usual rat race. That's when I said, no, I need to stop this. And I decided to become a coach. I went through the program to be certified as a coach, became a coach. I'm currently a professional certified coach with the ICF. I've been coaching for the last 10 years. I've coached quite a few 100 CEOs and CXOs. I have clients globally as well as in India. Uh, I do some leadership programs. I run a program called Unleash Your Potential, which is a 3-day program. Uh, I try to keep time for myself to be with my grandchildren, to be with my family. And that's the reason why I wanted to quit at 50, to find that balance which I was so much craving for when I was in industry. And I think I have found the balance. I'm very happy the way we live right now, the way I'm engaged and mentally agile, occupied to the extent that I wish to be. And I think that's the balance I was looking for, and wrote a book, uh, released the hostage. It became the number one bestsellers and the bestseller on Amazon in the HR category. Felt good, felt excited about it the day it was communicated to me. These are things which, small joys in life, which keep coming and energizing me. I get a lot of energy from my grandchildren and playing golf with my grandson and helping him learn the game and helping him, taking him where he wants to be, and sort of help him be what he wants to do.
Right. Excellent. And that's quite a journey. Brilliant journey. Right. I remember there was a line you used to say way back in L'Oreal: when in doubt, do it.
Do it.
Right. And I think that's guided you along the way. When in doubt, do it.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Do it.
Absolutely. So that's really a great journey, and you kind of led that journey with your heart by building relationships of trust, like you said, whether it was at Procter and Gamble or at L'Oreal, or what you do now as a coach, right? I was inspired, like I was telling you earlier, to get into coaching, get into training, because I sincerely wanted to work with children and the youth, because I said, most of them, especially in India, they become victims of their parents, and you know never allowed to truly unleash their potential, because, like I always say, be careful of the E3 entrapment. The first E, which is a big trap, is the education. Most education puts us into a box. It does not open the box for us. The second trap is the experience trap. We are not just products of our own experiences. We are the products of all the experiences, limitations, beliefs passed on to us by all the grown-ups. And the third trap, entitlement, right? E3 entrapment, as we call it in my book. And I say, you're not entitled to anything under the sun. You have to earn your place in the sun. Like trust and respect, everything has to be earned. You're not entitled to it, right? And I think that comes across in your story very strongly. And those are great life lessons for all the people who would be watching this. And I was inspired to start writing books around, you know, I perchance met this man called Dashrath Manji, who changed the course of my life yet again. And he inspired me to start something called the Karmavir Awards. And I said, how do we take the stories of the Karmavirs, who are the real heroes, to the youth and the children? Because the youth and the children are getting misled by thinking that, movie stars or sports stars are heroes. They're not, right? I mean, they may be great sports stars and great actors, but are they truly heroes? They're not. So I said, let's tell them the stories of real heroes like Dashrath Manji, a man who moved a mountain with a hammer and chisel, or a Lakshman Singh who's transformed, 500 villages from wastelands into wetlands, or a George Puliktail who fought Coca-Cola and brought them to their knees. Yeah. And just learned law from a very small college somewhere at the back of beyond of Kerala. So it's not your brand of education that defines you. It's how you learn and how you apply that learning that defines you. And that's how I started writing the Karma Kari books. My book series of true heroes, real heroes, is called Karma Kari. And I said, someone has to be a historian for all these ordinary people, because whether it was the Padma Awards or the Bharat Ratnas, they were only being given at that time to people who had the lobbying power with ministers and bureaucrats. And that's been my journey, right? So I write stories of real heroes because I said, let's inspire the youth and the students. What was your inspiration to write Release the Hostage? And what is the thought behind the title?
Well, as a kid, I kept failing,
Right.
and I haven't done too badly in life when it comes to whether it is education or it is business or responsibilities. And the way I've lived my life, I don't think I think when I look around me, whether it's my teammates or it's my company or people whom I interact with, I find that we love to complicate stuff, and we believe that life is complicated, whereas I believe that life is simple.
Yes.
You know,
It's also the status for many on Facebook. It's complicated. So
it's complicated.
when life can
You
actually
know,
be very simple.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I still remember, in presentations being made to me for reviews, I used to keep telling people to keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. And the marketing guys would come with a stack of slides, and I would say, I see at the bottom of the screen, I see you have 103 slides.
Right.
So you say, well, that's most of them are backup slides, and I would say, but still, your time given to you is 17 or 18 minutes or 20 minutes at the most. How do you decipher which slide to use or which slide not to use in the 103 slides? So why don't you just choose 3 slides from that, and we'll spend 20 minutes on it? And I found they could never do that.
True.
The first meeting I had when I joined Airtel was a technical committee making a presentation to me on the architecture and the network that they're planning for that circle. And after 20 minutes of listening to the engineers, I realized that I was not getting anywhere to understanding what the real issues were. And uh, I also told myself, I asked myself one question, and I said, you know, this is me talking to myself, and I said, Jagdish, you're just about 3 months old in the company now. If you tell them that you don't understand this, they probably will laugh, but they will understand. But after 10 months or 12 months, they probably will not even understand. How can you not understand? So I took that opportunity. I said, hey, gentlemen, I don't understand a word of what you're saying. Can we keep it in simple English and keep it so that I understand? You know, uh,
Right.
make it idiot proof. The CTO thought I was pulling his leg. Uh, he came next to me and he said, Jagdish, I hope you really don't mean what you said. I said, no, 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 Vijay, I really mean what I said. I just don't understand a word of what you people are talking. Cut out the jargon, keep it simple, and tell me in simple words. So he said, then can we have this meeting tomorrow? I said, yes. We reschedule it to tomorrow. In the evening, he came to me and he said, Jagdish, thank you for this. So I said, thank you for what? So he says, no, when I asked my engineers to keep it simple, I realized that half the stuff even they don't understand. We just use jargon to complicate life and to make the presentation look simple, look good for us. And I said, yes, from now onwards, all presentations will be kept simple and not more than 4 slides or 5 slides. And then I'd like you to talk about it, about your issues, rather than use slides to tell me what your issues are. And that's how we ran Airtel, keeping it simple. And
Right.
for me, that's the way life is. So, and I would say that writing the book was because I wanted to communicate this thought that it is life is simple. And again, uh, PC Narayan, my professor in SIBM, he had given a formula. He had told this to the entire class. And it was such a simple formula to manage your career. When I talk about it now, or when my friends read about it, they say, oh my God, we don't remember this PC telling us this. And I said, PC said this in the entire class. It was his last lecture. And I just took it so seriously because it was such a simple formula. And the formula for everybody and the viewers, let me just say, he said that point A to point A is where you are, point B is where you want to be. And that's the journey you're traveling in your career. And he said the shortest distance between point A and point B is a straight line. However, in life, you don't travel in a straight line. You are at tangents most of the time. It all you have to do is recognize that you are at a tangent, take corrective action, and prepare yourself for the future and be close to the straight line as possible. And you will manage your goals. It is as simple as this, Jerry.
Very
And I
true.
can tell you, I managed 45 years with this simple formula. It
Absolutely.
is as simple as this.
I completely agree with you. It resonates with what I do because, I also teach public speaking and presentation, being a professional public speaker myself. And I remember I had to, after doing a leadership course for all the business heads and directors of a bank, I was given the tough task of teaching them public speaking and presentation skills. And I said to the chairperson of the banking group, I said, what are you asking me to do? These are guys who are Ivy League educated, and you're asking me to teach them presentation skills. They'll cry murder, right? And this was over a weekend, I remember, on a Saturday and a Sunday, and not in an offsite, but in the basement of that banking group's headquarters in Bombay, right? So I was staying in this hotel at Parel called St. Regis, and the morning I landed over there, and I was walking into the basement. All these guys were actually looking at me like I was the enemy number one, right? And I said to them, I said, in case everything is fine with your presentations, I'll tell the chairperson you all don't need the training, and we'll all go for beer, right? And I said, okay, but let's have a look at your presentations. And rightly, like you said, each guy's presentation was around 85 to 90 slides. And I said, who are you talking to? They said mostly chairman, MDs, CFOs, the CXOs, because the decision makers who can decide on an IPO or business loans. I said, okay. And your first 20 slides are talking about you all being the number one banking group. I said, how do I care? Because the only reason you're standing in front of me making a presentation is because I know that. So get to brass tacks, right? Tell me, what can you do for me? And I said, you're missing the point because you just lost 20 minutes. Like you rightly said, how do you present with 85 slides in 20 minutes to a chairman or the managing director of a company? And then I said, we are no beers happening. We're going to learn public speaking and we're going to learn the art of presentation. Keep it short and succinct always. I was asking about
Yeah.
the title of the book, Release the Hostage, and when you were narrating your story, you spoke about how you had started blaming yourself, what is called as victim mindset in studies,
Yes.
in psychological studies or studies of neuroscience. So somewhere I link that victim mindset to what you're calling as release the hostage. So what is the title, and what should the title convey to an executive who seeks to be a CEO or a CXO? Are you with me? Your screen froze for a while.
Yeah. Is it fine? Okay now?
Yeah, it's fine.
Is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Okay. You're right. We tend to blame everybody else but ourselves. And we don't realize how this. You know, when Judith Glaser talks about the communication quotient, she's basically talking about when you're communicating with the external world. But I have taken that concept and I've said the internal communication, the way you talk to yourself, is critical because that
Absolutely.
impacts your IQ, your EQ, and your SQ. So your internal communication is absolutely important for you to understand how do you talk to yourself, how do you think, and what do you tell yourself. So, and I realized that most of us, the human brain loves to focus on the negative side, and most of us uh, are all the time looking at the negative side of an event or a situation. And we can say that we are being cautious, we are being, you know, absolutely making sure that we have all the, we cross all the T's and dot the I's, and we're making sure that we don't fail. But end of it, deep down, it's the fear of failure. And the fear of failure is really coming from the way you talk to yourself. And I realized that these limiting beliefs, these thoughts, the way we communicate to ourselves, the way we talk to ourselves, the way we think, the way we behave is all making us deeper and deeper into uh, sort of holding ourselves hostage. you know and I still remember PC telling us that a time will come in your career when you will find it easy to move the goalpost. He says if you have decided to be the managing director of a company, you might say I'm already 37, 38, and maybe it's okay if I'm a vice president marketing and sales at 40. Whereas the goal was MD at 40. Now you're seeing that it's difficult. And he said, don't move the goalpost. That's your definition of happiness. Strive to achieve that. Even if the time is short, look at it seriously and you can really make adjustments to achieve it. And I found that you can really make that only if you talk to yourself about self belief, talk to yourself about courage, make yourself vulnerable, talk to yourself about uh, how other people understand your communication, or how do you want them to understand, empathize with them, and therefore uh, modulate your communication in a way that others understand you better. And I love the way Avi Kluger said that a deep listener makes the speaker more responsible. And I really think that's really true. And that's where I said, most guys, executives who are 23, 25 years into the game, are probably where they are evaluating and reevaluating whether my goalpost is okay or not okay. And I wanted to tell that category of executives that don't change the goalpost, release the hostage. You are holding yourself hostage. Free yourself, believe in yourself, believe in your abilities, believe in your communication, believe in your leadership. You will be there. It's
Very
as simple as
nice.
that.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with you. Echoes my sentiments, because it's pointless blaming yourself and becoming victims of failures, because I think that's where growth mindset
Yes.
truly comes in. And unfortunately for us, whether it's in our geography or in the US, what modern education and parents at home teach us is not growth mindset. They teach us fixed mindset, especially in our country where failure is a taboo word, without realizing that without failure you can't experiment, you can't innovate, you can't truly unleash your unlimited potential. Because how do you kind of unleash that latent potential which is lying dormant within you, just by kind of not wanting to fail and staying in your comfort zone? And I think that's what 90% of the world suffers from today. That comfort zone, which is a place which stunts your growth, which stifles your growth, which suffocates your growth. So what is the central theme of your book, and do you want to read out a couple of paragraphs or maybe some thoughts from your book? Please also show the book to all the people in the audience. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
it.
don't know. Can you see it? I
Yes,
don't know.
yes. I think the screen you're using is
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's showing
blurring
on
the
the back.
book, but
Yes,
yes,
it's
it's
showing.
right there in the back.
The book is at
So
the back, yes.
yes, yeah. So what is the central theme in a nutshell? And please read out a couple of paragraphs before we go into the process of writing that you followed.
Okay, I think I'll read out two aspects or two small paras or two uh, snippets. Not snippets. It's pretty long, so I can't call it snippet.
Sure.
But it's uh, the first one I'll read out is vulnerability is courage. How does Dr. Brené Brown see vulnerability? She says, I quote, I define vulnerability as an emotional risk, exposure, uncertainty. It fuels our daily lives. And I've come to the belief, this is my 12th year doing this research, that vulnerability is our most accurate measurement of courage. To be vulnerable is to let ourselves be seen, to be honest. I unquote. Dr. Brené Brown describes vulnerability as the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. To create is to make something that has not existed before. There's nothing more vulnerable than that. Being adaptable to change is all about vulnerability. To be vulnerable is to display courage. Courage is a Latin word that means telling a story from the heart. Courage is about acknowledging, appreciating, accepting, and allowing events in our lives to happen. I described my experience of rappelling with the team earlier in the book. I was scared and vulnerable until I took the first step. And taking that first step was about trusting the person who was guiding me down the steep slope. He was my secure base. The second is what I want to read is about my experience of rappelling. And I mean, that comes under the heading of self awareness leads to insights.
Right.
When I was at Airtel, I experienced rappelling for the first time during a team building exercise with Pegasus. It was about overcoming fear. I found myself looking down a sheer 70-foot overhanging rock face, utterly terrified. But I learned more than just overcoming my fear in that moment. To overcome that fear, I had to surrender to it. And that was freedom. Take the first step and be vulnerable to overcome the fear that is stopping you. The second thing I learned was that there was enough within me and my control to take care of myself. What was in my control was to be calm, to believe in the process, to, to believe in the person who held the rope, to understand how the rappel brake worked, to test it out initially, to take one step at a time, to believe in myself, and of course, to have fun. By the end of rappelling exercise, I had some questions for myself. Do I know what I can control in my life? Am I a secure base to my team? And am I worthy of the implicit faith and trust? How do I build such trust? Do I understand vulnerability? Is vulnerability a weakness? In team dynamics, what are the levers of productivity and who pushes them? Was I able to influence and motivate some of my team members? The team was watching my every step. What if I had panicked? And the last question that came to my mind was, did I put myself at risk or was it just another process?
Brilliant. Very nice. Thank you for sharing those thoughts with us. And I like the way you've kind of based a lot of what you're sharing on vulnerability. And I've done intense research on this, not just on what Brené Brown has written, but also I studied like, almost 3,000 near-death experiences. And I
Oh,
always explain to people that vulnerability is weakness only in the dictionary, the Oxford, Collins, and Webster dictionary, right? In the
true,
human space, vulnerability is power,
true.
vulnerability is strength. And it is that vulnerability which gives you that enlightenment to say, I don't know,
Yeah.
right? I can't know everything. I'm just a mere mortal, right? Or you become a Sadguru in ashram because he knows everything, right? I have not read about the farmers bill, but I know that the farmers are protesting wrongly. Come on, if you don't, if you've not read the bill, how can you comment on that? And that's the dynamic that we've created. This is the what we call as the mojosh inspirator infinitum. And you would see that vulnerability is the striker right here at the corner, right? Because it helps you to understand that change and transformation is going to happen constantly in your life.
Yeah.
So if you stay in your comfort zone and you're not planning and preparing for transformation, if you don't prepare for change positively, change will work on you negatively, right? And not just plan for all the accomplishments, but also prepare for all the hardships, all the hurdles, right? And we call it the 7P mantra, that prior proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. Plan for the best, prepare for the worst. Now I'm sure you notice this whenever I'm doing a visioning exercise with the leadership team and the CXOs. They're all very happy setting those goals and everything is very good. Time for cocktails. And then I say, no, 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 no. Now let's prepare for all those things that are going to go wrong along the way. But Jerry, why are you speaking negative? And I'm like, seriously, this don't speak negative, think positive is the most negative business in the world, right? And I'm like, if you don't prepare for Murphy's law will work against you. And that's exactly why people tend to kind of sit down and blame themselves, because they don't really prepare for all those things that would go wrong. And I'm happy that you explained it so beautifully. The vulnerability is power in the real space. It teaches you interdependence. It teaches you to keep an open mind to other people's ideas. It teaches you everything. So we've really unpacked it in our book. Called the book is titled Mojo's Inspirator. So thank you for that. I want to take you to the process of writing now. And this is basically, we had shared that storytelling tutorial with you, because whether it's a business book or a novel, at the end of the day, you're telling a story, because stories are the best way to get people to gain insights about what they can do in their life. We had shared this with you. So what is the process that you followed to write your book, Release the Hostage? Because I wanted to share this process for all aspiring writers, right from putting the concept together, to creating the nutshell, to get into the process of writing. Because once you write the book, it looks like an easy journey, but I know, I mean, it's a lot of fear when you set out to write your first book, right? Will I be able to do it? Will I not be able to do it? So I would like you to share the process that you followed, so that all our young aspiring writers can gain from this. And this part is going to go to a lot of school students and college students. So what is the process you followed? When did you start writing, and how long did it take you to complete the book?
Well, I started writing and I completed it in a matter of about 17, 18 months.
Wow.
Uh, but the process didn't start at that stage. The process of wanting to write a book started almost 3 years ago or 4 years ago. With my workshops and everybody, who attended the workshop, they would say, "Hey, Chief, what a workshop, yeah? You should put it in a book format." And I used to get all these kind of comments. put it in a book, put it in a book, and this is great stuff and all that. And I wanted to put it in a book because I wanted to share my thought process in a more organized way. I didn't really think of it as a storytelling way, but it turned out to be almost like a storytelling way. Uh, you know, I wanted to write the book, but there was a big fear. Uh, a small fear was I don't know how to write a book.
Right.
You know,
Most of us have to start somewhere. When in doubt, do it.
yeah, when in doubt, do it. So I said, okay, that fear I can overcome. I'll write it at the most. I'll have to scrap it. But the bigger fear and the biggest fear was who wants to read my book? You know, and I would say, oh, but the people who attend my workshops want to read it. And I would say, oh, that's a very small section. But a book is not written for a handful of people. A book is written for a large audience. So question was, do I write? Do I not write? Do I write? Do I not write? And I think I spent about 3 to 4 years in that. I had the stuff in my head. Nothing was there on paper or in the laptop. There were small, articles written here and there, which was on my laptop. Finally, I met Mustafa of Passion Pruna, and he's an expensive guy, but a good guy. uh, uh, and he actually gave me a format, which actually is such a simple format, and I loved it because of its simplicity. You know, and it is as simple as 16 squares. You just take a Excel sheet and make 16 squares, and in each square you write. First, you start with what you want to say. So if there are 15, 12, or 13, 15 topics that you want to talk about, just shoot it there. Tuck, 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 tuck. Don't worry about the order. Just shoot it and put it in some square. Then play around with the squares and say which comes after what and what. And then each square, you go into writing 4 or 5 points that you want to elaborate in that square about that main topic that you've written. And voila, you write the book. It's as simple as that.
Right.
And as I said, OMG, come on. I always knew, I always said life is simple. I always knew structure trumps chaos. But I could not think of this as a structure for the book. And Mustafa gave it to me. And of course, it took 18 months because the pandemic and other issues in the family kept me, preoccupied with many other stuff. And therefore, there was delays and stuff like that. But end of 18th month, I had the printed copy in my hand, and that was a great feeling.
Absolutely. It's priceless.
Yes, priceless. And 45 days from the launch. And the launch, I had 2 of my heroes launch my book. My hero number 1, Nandan Nilekani, came along and released the book. And my youngest hero, my grandson Kabir, from whom I learned that you need to express gratitude.
Absolutely.
Gratitude is not to be kept in your heart. Yeah, all of us have gratitude to a lot of stuff in our lives, to a lot of people in our lives. But my grandson said, Aju, unless you express it, the other person doesn't know
Very true.
of your gratitude. And that's something I learned from my grandson. So I had these 2 heroes of mine release my book, Nandan and Kabir. And 45 days after that, number 1 bestseller on Amazon in HR category. I mean, I couldn't have asked for anything more than that.
Brilliant. So congratulations for that also. And thank you for sharing the process that you learned from Mustafa. and how you complete. And I'm happy that took you around 18 months, because people laugh at me when I say it took me 3 years to finish the book, because there are a lot of authors out there who get books ready in 2 months. So nowadays, if you see on Facebook, on Instagram, almost everybody is an author and a TEDx speaker, right? I'm like, okay, but I hope you've written something which makes some sense. And then you have all these guys teaching you on Facebook and Insta how to write a book and become a millionaire in 6 months. And I'm like,
Oh,
what have I
wow.
been working so hard for 30 years? I've yet to see my first million, right? So thank you for that. And I'm sure it's going to be a great read for all the people who are reading it. My next book, which is called Weekends with Zoe, releases soon. It's about a 16-year-old girl who was on a deathbed, who appointed me as a life coach and ended up sharing life leadership lessons with me, which I'm now sharing with the world. Those are
Oh,
her
wow.
lessons, but we are sharing it with the world. And I would like some thoughts from you on vulnerability, which I can include in the book as Jagdish Kini's thoughts about vulnerability, because the whole book actually teaches you to be vulnerable. Because here's a girl who's 16 years old and she's dying, and she's talking not just life and leadership lessons, but also about serious issues that are plaguing our world and how we can have simple solutions to them, right, rather than complicating things, right? Because I think like a lot of people with those 80, 90 slide presentations who come with that attitude that if you can't convince them, then confuse them. We have world leaders doing the same thing now, right? So they can't convince you about doing something good, so they're completely confusing people with God knows what, right? God knows God, right? Anyway, so thank you, Jagdish Kini. Pleasure
Pleasure,
interacting with you.
pleasure.
Pleasure having this conversation with you. If there are any closing insights that you want to share with all our audience who has joined us. Thank you to the audience for joining us. Please do go and buy Jagdish Kini's book, Release the Hostage. It's available on Amazon and leading bookstores. Yes, Jagdish.
Well, I would only tell uh, the business community, uh, dream big, go for it, believe in yourself, believe in your goals. You will make the difference. You will make it happen.
Very true. Believe in your goals and you will make it happen. Set the goals smartly
Absolutely.
and work with an action plan. It's what I call in my book as dearly obsessive goals, dogs, because you stay loyal to them. And then you need to have an action plan with elephants and ants. What are the big things that you need to do? But what are the small things that need to be done? Because if you don't do those small things, you're never reaching there, because those small things make the big difference.
I
So
would
thank
only add. I would only add by saying, celebrate those small victories.
Absolutely. Right. So thank you so much, Jagdish Kini, for making the time to join us, and pleasure having this conversation with you. Stay well, and I hope to see you when I come to get to Bangalore next. My regards to Kabir and everybody at home. What is your granddaughter's name?
Meera,
And your two daughters?
Anushri, and Dipali.
Wow. Excellent. Give them all my regards, and take care.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, what's left of
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you. Bye bye.
See you. I will send you the links later.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Thank you.